Good evening, everyone. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily, like the flower. And welcome to Transaction Care Live. I'm going to call this session TC with Lily. Let me pull up some notes before I get started. And if you are watching the replay, introduce yourself in the comments. If you are watching live, also introduce yourself in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, where you are watching from. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them live in the chat. I will answer them for you. So today, I have a couple things to talk about. I have some questions that I received on social media that I want to answer, as well as make an announcement. So I will bring that up later towards the end of this live, but just sit tight, relax, grab a drink, grab some food, snack. Let's chat. And like I said, if you have any questions or just want to interact with others, drop them in the comments and we will take it from there. And if you haven't already, join my mailing list. Go to transactioncare.com and enter your name and your email address, and you will be receiving an email from me on a weekly basis. And definitely don't want to miss out on that, because you will get exclusive content from me every week. And like I said, I'm making an announcement today, but those that are in my mailing list know exactly what that announcement is. They knew about it way before it's actually going to go public today, but they knew about my announcements a couple weeks back. But anyway, before we get into any of the questions, I actually want to talk about coaching. I had my coaching session today. I like to schedule most of my meetings for coaching on the same day, because I know it's just going to be an emotionally heavy day, and I just want to be able to have experience all of that at once and not have it spread out too far. And it gives me time to process and to just really understand what's going on with my life, what's blocking me. And I think that's one of the greatest benefits of coaching, is that I am. Hi, Nancy. Thank you for joining. And whoever else is watching out there, go ahead and say hi. I would definitely say hi back. But I'm just talking about, also introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. But I'm just updating currently what's going on with me. I had coaching today with my personal coach and my group coaching community, and it was great. I probably had one of the biggest breakthroughs today that I've had in a while. Actually, November has been a month of breakthroughs for me. I'm learning and understanding that I get very attached to my ideas and to things very easily. And when you are a solopreneur running a transaction coordinator business or any business, I feel like getting attached to something can very much derail some of your plans or delay the progress, because you're so hyper focused on one thing. Hi, Nicolette. Oh, Georgia. How's the weather where you're at? I'm in the Bay Area. Once again, my name is Lily, and this is Transaction Care. Thank you so much for joining me. Ooh, cold, I bet. It's getting cold here, but I can't imagine it's probably not as cold as it is in Georgia that it is here. Um, but I want to, yeah, so this week, sorry, I got distracted, but thank you so much for checking in. So detaching, I'm learning how to detach from my ideas, because I always think, oh, this idea is going to be the one, this one's going to be the one. And then I just end up getting stuck or overwhelmed, because I'm so hyper focused on that one thing that I can't think of any other things to keep the train moving, right? And then today I was talking with my coach about how I have everything planned out in terms of scheduling and time management, but I still felt like I was just running in circles with my progress. I just wasn't getting anywhere with my projects. I was still finding myself back at the start line, but I had feelings that of, oh, this is done and it's accomplished. But in actuality, I just kept planning all of my next steps and wasn't ever really going back to my original idea where it all started. And that's why I was starting to feel like I was just running in this loop and this circle of ideas, because I never really finished planning or executing my original plan that is the beginning of all of these projects, which, well, I will get into later with the announcement. Um, but either way, I think when you're launching a business or wanting to start a business, you're going to learn a lot about yourself and how you just operate in certain situations. Some things you can be warned about. You can be told, "Hey, look out for this on on your journey." But when you're in it, it's just everyone reacts differently. And for me, I'm starting to rediscover who I am and uncover some things that I didn't realize were just being overloaded with more ideas or more feelings, that sometimes you just need to isolate everything and just focus on the one thing in order to move forward. Um, let's see. Speaking of moving forward, do you guys have any questions about transaction coordination or how to run a business, a real estate business? Just a little background about me. If you're new to this channel, watching now or in the replay, I've worked in real estate since 2004. It started as a part-time college job, just something to fund my CD habit and my concert habits and to buy a burrito at lunch. I wasn't asking for much, but I somehow got immersed and embraced this real estate world, and it's followed me ever since. 2004 was a long time ago, and I launched my personal transaction coordinator business, Transaction Care, in 2018 after I quit my 9 to 5 and just realized it was time for me to take that leap and just everything I had prepared for in that moment, just take what I had and do it. Do it afraid and just don't turn back. I mean, I could turn back a little bit, but for the most part, it's been forward motion. I've even been failing forward, but as long as I'm moving that way, I'm good. Um, and that's a little background about me. And I want to help as many transaction coordinators as I can. I'm based out of California. And when it comes to real estate, the business of real estate, that's my alarm for the live. The business of real estate can vary state to state, county to city to county. It's all different, but it all has the same end goal, is to close the deal, get the keys, and everyone gets paid, right? But no one really talks about all of the in between things that go on, the behind the scenes of, you know, who manages the paperwork? When do I sign? How often do I communicate with certain people? And my goal with Transaction Care is to just demystify that entire process and to bring more clarity and understanding to transaction coordination as a whole, but also just from my perspective here in California, and giving you as many tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that I'm continuously learning to share those with you all. So let's see. Nicolette says, my problem is that I have no experience and I don't know how to approach agents to convince them to be their TC. Past real estate test, did 2 TC online courses. Great. Well, first of all, congratulations on passing your real estate exam. That's no easy feat. I know taking tests for me does not come easy. I attempted 3 times and I failed twice. And I say 3 times because the first time I didn't even finish the courses, so I just considered that a failure. The second time, I convinced myself to think that, oh, I'm just going to go see how the test is and then I'll retake it, knowing I was scared and nervous and ill prepared. But when I realized I was about 3 points away from passing, I took it more serious and I did it and I passed on the third attempt. And I recently actually just renewed my license. So I've been licensed for about 5 years now, I would say, as a TC. And there are a few ways to approach agents when it comes to trying to bring them on. And for the most part, you're just going to have to it's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of repetition, finding ways to market yourself that are true to you, but also will keep you front of mind at all times. And what I like to tell people is to start with your family and friends. I know many people, I've spoken to many people that have gotten their start in real estate just from a family member. Hey, oh, I worked with someone that started their business through a relative, like their sister-in-law is a realtor and needed a TC. So sometimes your business can come from areas that you would least expect it. But tell me a little bit more about Nicolette, if you don't mind, just telling me a little bit more in terms of how you're approaching them right now. Is it through emails, cold calling, in-person networking? Just so I can get a little bit of background and I can kind of build off of that. But basically, with my approach is I updated. So I used to work at an office, and they had requested that I update my LinkedIn. I didn't want to because at the time I wasn't even looking for another job, but they wanted it just so I could. The company wanted me to update my LinkedIn, not because they were pushing me out or anything, but it was just more so for company policy. So I did, but as a result, companies started to reach out to me to be their TC. And I would just ignore them. I would ignore them. But then there was this one that stood out, and they messaged me and they say, "Hey, we would love to have lunch with you." And that was different from any other person that had contacted me. And the fact that they contacted me felt like, okay, this is pretty serious. So because my LinkedIn was updated, I casted somewhat of a I gave people more of a gave myself more visibility. I just started reaching out, and it's only been Lady at Kids Sports who is an agent. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So that's good. You have somewhat of a connection within there. I'll expound on that in just a moment. But I realized that had I not updated my LinkedIn, people wouldn't know about me. So if you want it to be visible, you have to kind of exhaust all of your options, right? And sometimes do things a little bit out of your comfort zone. Like for me, I do not like cold calling, but I have to do it on occasion. um, I love email marketing. So I'll, when I first started out, I told everyone that in my inner circle, I started with them and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," or I just would text or call whenever I would speak to someone on the phone and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I recently passed my real estate exam. I'm a transaction coordinator and building my business. If you know of anyone, send them my way." You can also create business cards. This might seem kind of like an old, antiquated way of doing business, but it doesn't hurt, right? So I would just start on the ground level, just like see who in your network knows people in real estate. Just make it a casual conversation. It doesn't have to be so salesy or awkward. Just start, feeling around because if you know people that have purchased a home, then more than likely they used a realtor. So think of all the people that that have purchased a home in your family or your inner circle, or your close friends or coworkers, colleagues, and even your neighbors. Think about, who did they use? If maybe in your neighborhood you see for sale signs, call those agents and see what they maybe see what brokerage that person works for, and call everyone on that list to see if they need a TC, or go directly or go to the office and maybe talk to someone or schedule a meeting with the office manager. Um, it also depends on what your goals are. Like, do you want to do this as your own business, or do you not mind um, working in-house for a little bit, as maybe a part-time job or a full-time job? Like I said, I started my real estate career working at an office. What do you mean, broker, Nicolette? Excuse me. With the cold calling. In Georgia, they're called brokers, right? They're not referred to as realtors. Is that what I'm getting at? I know in some states, you have to have a broker's license instead of a real estate license, if I'm correct. I'm based out of California, so all you need is a real estate license and to sign up and be a member of the California Association of Realtors to be considered a realtor. Otherwise, if you just have a license, you're just considered a licensed real estate agent. But either way, in terms of putting yourself out there, like I said, you start with your family and friends, update your LinkedIn, let people know that you are a transaction coordinator so that when other companies or real brokers or realtors, when they're searching for TCs in your neighborhood, you could potentially pop up in that search. You can also put out Google ads, social media ads. Those were a game changer for me. A lot of my early clients that I worked with were from Google ads, and one of them, uh, she was the type of realtor that she found me on Google. She said, "Hey, I'm looking for a TC. Can you help me?" And we ended up building a working relationship through that. And she referred me to someone who I worked with for a couple years. Both of these realtors do business sporadically. They weren't full-time realtors, but they did like a couple deals a year. Um, and then she referred me to another person. So you just have to cast a wide enough net to put yourself out there so so you can be visible to those that are looking for a TC in your neighborhood, and be as specific as possible with those you're reaching out to. And I don't know if you have a website or a social media presence, or an email, a phone number, but definitely do your best to market yourself in as many ways as possible, because you just really don't know where your next deal will come from, because it could come from the place you least expect it. Like I said, I put out a Google ad. I think I spent maybe $100 that month on ads, and that $100 turned into 5 or 10 deals later just from one simple ad. So in the process to set those up. Okay, good. Yeah. So while you're in the search of, while you're building up your roster, definitely use this time to also get all of your kind of logistical things in order, like an email, separating your money, like having a personal and a business account. Even if it's not a business account right away, at least maybe open a separate checking account. Having all of that in order before your business really starts to take off will save you a lot of headache and stress in the future. And let's see. Yeah, so just continuously marketing yourself, like even as a seasoned TC, someone that has been doing this for a long time, I find myself, like I said, it's a lot of repetition. It may not be as often or frequent. Like I may not be doing cold calling all the time. I know some TCs that do it weekly, daily. Um, I personally send out a a weekly newsletter that goes out to those that have joined my mailing list. And hello to everyone that's here from my mailing list. You already know what I'm going to announce later. But for the most part, getting business is probably harder than actually doing transaction coordination, because once you have the basics down with TCing, it's then just a matter of maintaining the clientele that you have and continuously to grow it. And also knowing, what are your goals? What are your milestones? They don't have to be so much, they don't have to be set in stone, but just have a plan of action in place to be like, okay, when I get my first client, do I have all of this, all of my onboarding things in order to, ask them the right questions to obtain as much information about them as possible? And you'll learn also, not everything has to be perfect or completely done 100% on, before you start, because I've definitely improved my way of doing my business practices tremendously over the last year. I feel like in the beginning, everything was kind of all over the place. I was disorganized, and I took on way too much solo than I probably should have. And that resulted in me ultimately burning out. And I don't wish that on anybody. So have goals, or at least an idea of, okay, for the next month, I'm going to try this for my marketing strategy. So 30 days straight of, cold calling, email marketing, open houses. Is my LinkedIn updated? I'm going to send resumes into offices. I'm going to go look at whatever job websites there are and see whatever listings are in my area and just apply. Even if you're not interested, just apply. And then that way you could, get on the phone with these companies and see what they're asking, see what they're looking for, and you can apply that to your business. Or, maybe if they're looking for an in-house TC, you could possibly convince them to hire you as a contractor, as an independent TC. There are several ways to go about building your business and getting your first clients and many of your clients after that. I think it's just a matter of picking maybe your top 3 for now in the beginning and going hard with those 3 and then seeing what works best from there, and then just continuously improving from that point on. But if you stick to one thing for too long and it's not working, you may possibly be wasting some time, and just take those losses and some of the rejection you will face as lessons and understanding and education. It's not a fail. You're not failing. You're not a failure. You just have to keep going. I get rejected all the time. Right now is probably one of the more for lack of better words, quieter, slower times for me in my business. And I do my best to talk myself out of not panicking and just focusing on, all right, what can I do today? What can I control right now in this moment? You know, and I just start planning from there, because I can't control when I'm going to get my next closing or whatnot, but I can definitely control like how I'm going to approach getting more business in the future, or is this the business I still want to do? I was told that the older I get, the less I was told the older I get, the less I cared about rejection. Not true. Yeah, rejection is one of those things that doesn't get easier to deal with, but I feel like we can equip ourselves with the tools and education and knowledge to not dwell on it for so long. I feel like no matter what situation you're in, rejection's always going to hurt, or it's going to make you feel uncomfortable or shame or embarrassment. But the solution to that, in my opinion, and through my experience, is how long am I going to hold on to the story I'm telling myself about that rejection? Like, am I going to hold on to that and just, this is my new identity? I'm, not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not qualified. Or I can, you know, take the hit, dust myself off. Like Leah said, dust yourself off and try again. You just keep going, and you take that rejection as data. Like, okay, well, maybe this approach didn't work with this type of person, or maybe it just wasn't the right time for them or even for you. You just have to take that rejection as like this tiny little part of your life that you'll apply to the bigger picture, versus considering the rejection this huge thing and your world is this small. No, like the rejection is like this big, but your world is like infinite. But it still hurts. We're human. I don't like rejection. I've avoided so many things to avoid rejection, when in actuality, I'm rejecting myself by not facing whatever it is that I have to face. So now it's like double rejection. But keep going. Don't give up. Just write down. Yeah. Diversify your marketing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you know one person that does real estate, just call them and see how you can provide value in their life in this moment. Maybe it means you work for free for a month, but at least you'll be taking the steps into learning, versus just sitting there for a month waiting for things to come to you. As TCs, a big part of our job is to take initiative. And that actually leads me to one of a question I got on TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, follow me at Transaction Care. It's Transaction Care across all social media platforms, but I'm mostly on here, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. That's where you'll find me all day, every day. and I have a lot of fun on all 3 platforms, as you see. But I had a question on TikTok where she was asking, when we get a new contract, am I supposed to wait for the agent to give me the paperwork? Or do I have to ask for excuse me, or do I have to ask for it? And here's the question. Do you have to gain access to your realtor's car or wait for them to give you disclosures paperwork to send out? CAR stands for California Association of Realtors. So if you hear me say CAR, that's what I'm referring to. That's our state association. But basically what she's asking, and this applies no matter where you're working in the world in real estate as a TC, is she was wondering, do I have to wait for them to give me things, or do I have access to this on the back end? And um, the best practices is, as soon as you get a contract, whether it's for a listing or a sale, um, that should trigger you to say, okay, new contract. So let me, pull the tax records. Let me request a preliminary title report. Let me send out my timelines. Let me request copies of any disclosures, depending on what side of the sale you're on. Usually, if we represent the buyers, we typically won't have many of the disclosures right away. So I would reach out to the listing agent, and this is after I've sent out my timeline and introduced myself um, to everyone involved in the transaction. But it's important to take initiative as a TC to gain as much access up front and early. So if you have access to an agent's forms library, then you can easily go in and download documents that pertain to that particular property and start getting those signed. Granted that you and the realtor have already discussed that you have the green light to contact the buyer or seller to get those documents signed, and they're okay with signing things on DocuSign, or maybe the buyer or seller prefers to sign things in person. But as the TC, you can still gather and download those documents to give to the agent, realtor, or broker to present to their buyer or seller to get those signed. So, and a lot of that information, to save time, can be obtained in the onboarding process. I have a form that I've created on Google Forms. And if you want to know what's on that form, just send me an email, tc@transactioncare.com, and I'll gladly just share that link with you, just so you could get an idea of what I'm asking from the beginning. You can even go to my Instagram bio and see it. I wonder if I could pull it up and put it here in the chat. But basically, I just ask agents, just for as much information as possible. Like, does your broker have a transaction management platform that they use? If so, what is it? Like a SkySlope. We use SkySlope a lot in California. Do you have a preferred, like, who are your preferred vendors? Depending on what you're offering as a TC, some TCs like to do everything. They like to schedule inspections. They like to do MLS input. They'll the services that you offer as a TC can be expansive. So the more, like I said, the more information you have, the better. So let's just say they have a preferred vendors list. You want to be able to have access to that. So in the event that you get a new escrow and they've confirmed, okay, go ahead and open escrow with John Smith. You already have John Smith's email, phone number, address. If you have ever, I don't think you would ever have to mail or go into the office, but you have all of that information ready so you can just send out your emails to open escrow or to do whatever it is you need to do, order a natural hazard report. And it just makes your job a lot easier when you onboard your agent and obtain as much information as possible, because then you're not waiting. Because the thing about realtors and emails is that they're getting flooded with emails all day, every day. And the difference between realtors, brokers, agents, and TCs is as TCs, for the most part, we're at our desks and we have access to our emails constantly. So we're always in our inboxes refreshing, or we have time blocks for when we're going to be checking our emails. So for the most part, our job is not to miss any of that information. But with realtors, they're out on the field. They're out there working, trying to get their next deal. They're at inspections, they're at closings. So they're not always on their phone checking emails, throughout the 9 to 5 hours. So they may miss your request for, who do you want to open escrow with? Or, unless you call or text them, which you can. But if you're solely relying on email, there's going to be a delay in between the request and the response. So, like I said, the more information you can obtain upfront, the better for you for the whole process. It looks good on you as a TC. It looks good. It helps the agent focus on what they need to focus on, and there's not a constant back and forth of, who should I use or who should I be contacting? Like, once confirmed, you already know. And yeah, so taking initiative is important as a TC, and when you're running any business, honestly, even as realtors, if you haven't heard, as TCs, as realtors, we both kind of have to market ourselves very similarly. And, we have to do the email marketing, the social media marketing, the cold calling, prospect, all of that in order to get business, right? It's just geared towards a different person. And taking initiative is huge in all of that. And the same applies when you're in the business, when you're doing it, when you have clients, when you're working on a file. Taking initiative is huge. So, and keep in mind, like, when you're working with these realtors, that's your resume in a sense, because you're showing them your customer service, you're showing them that you are qualified, you're capable, you are reliable. That's important, because this happened to me multiple times. It's somewhat of an unrealistic expectation, and I've actually talked about this in one of my previous vlogs, that you could be on track and do everything right and do everything in order, but the realtor is always going to expect you to reply the moment they send an email. You could have sent them an email earlier that day saying, "Hey, files updated. This is what we need, XYZ. Please confirm receipt or let me know if you have any questions," right? And it's out there, it's sent. But the agent will email or call you or text you and say, "Hey, what's going on with this file? I haven't heard from you. What's going on?" And they could have sent it like 5 minutes ago. And if they haven't heard from you, they may like throw a fit. And, this plays into having boundaries as well, because I typically don't keep agents that are like that, but you will learn. And sometimes you'll have to work with those bad clients in order to fully understand and comprehend that it's just not a fit. So realtors operate in their own bubble and in their own world. So if you don't hear from one when you're, trying to get hired, don't take it personally. Just keep going. Just keep trying. Maybe go outside of your location, outside of your neighborhood, and see what else there is that you can do. Like I said, providing value is your greatest asset, and figuring out ways like, okay, I'm really good at writing. So maybe there's a realtor out there that needs help writing their newsletters every week. I can offer that as a service, and then maybe that could be used as like your way in. TCing, I always say this is like a gateway into a plethora of options and opportunities. And there are some people that just love TCing and stick with it. And that's great. More power to you. But I feel like it would, once you're in this field, or even just running a business, you'll start to unlock things about you that you didn't realize existed. But all of that happens when you take action and when you actually implement all the things that you learned and apply it to whatever it is you're trying to do. And when it comes to transaction coordination, It's just a lot of persistence, a lot of just discipline. And if you're really serious about this, just going hard for 6 months to a year of just whether it's re-auditing your life and your habits and saying, okay, what can I change to either free up some more time so I could focus on this, or maybe I need to get a part-time job while I build, so the part-time job or the full-time job, I can use those funds to invest in my business and myself, and I can work on the business after hours when I'm at home in the meantime. So then that way, especially if income is an issue, you know, don't get too stuck on one thing if it's too much of a burden in the beginning. It'll get there. You'll get there. Um, but you just have to take the initiative and do it. And the same thing applies whether you have clients or not. Um, but like I said, there's a lot of ways to approach agents and convince them, and sometimes it's not even, like I said, your customers may not even come from agents. It could be a family friend, it could be your neighbor, it could be an old coworker. If you got your real estate license online or maybe in person, maybe it's a classmate, a teacher, the program you went through to get your license, to get licensed, reach out to them, reach out to your board and see if they are willing to, um, just at least give you some information and guidance in terms of like how are other TCs getting business around here, putting out ads. If you're just joining, let me know where you're from. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I will gladly answer them. But right now, I'm just talking about taking initiative in all aspects of business and TCing and real estate. Um, no one is going to, no one's going to wait for you. No one's going to spoon feed you anything. You just have to be ready. And the more ready you are, the easier your job will be, especially in those intense moments where you're in a file auditing and things just aren't going the way you thought they would go. And just do as many things as you can to make your life easier. But you got to be relentless. Keep trying a lot of different ways to get business, and it'll happen. Just be patient, and don't hold on to this being the only solution. There are many solutions. You just may have to alter your expectations, and it may not always align with the vision you have today. It could happen tomorrow, 6 months from today, a year from today. You just have to keep planting the seeds. Plant the seeds, keep it moving. Let it grow. Like plants and flowers aren't going to grow overnight. It's the same with our life and our business. Like continuously working on yourself. And when something bothers you or you are faced with rejection, ask yourself, what am I telling myself, and why am I holding on to these feelings? Because you could change your thoughts. It may take some time, may take some work, but if your focus is on getting better and helping yourself and changing your views and expectations, it's possible. It's possible. I want to get into another question I had on Instagram. No, it was TikTok. Sorry about that. But yeah, and if you're watching this live or on the replay, comment some ways that you're marketing yourself and how you're getting business. I would love to hear just what the community is doing. And I'm always looking for ways to freshen up my marketing strategies. I'm attending classes, and continued education is key. Just because you got your real estate license, it doesn't mean you know everything. I've been working in real estate for almost 2 decades, and I'm constantly learning new things. Like, full disclosure, I don't know that much about the mortgage world, lending, things like that. It still kind of confuses me. There's a lot of numbers involved, and I want to invest more time into that area next year and learning about it. And whether it's through books, YouTube, anything like that, I think just continuously educating yourself, but as you're learning, you're also, absorbing the information, but coming up with an action plan. You have to take action. So, yeah, but let me know how you guys are, or what your game plans are, or what is working for you, what's not working for you. There are a lot of ways that one can market themselves and gain business. You just have to, like I said, cast a wide enough net and just keep fishing. Keep fishing. And let's see, I'm just looking at my notes. So this week I want to talk about when, as a TC, our job is to, as TCs, our job is to audit the files, right? And making sure everything is in compliance, that we have the right paperwork in the file, everything is signed and fully executed. The time, making sure the timeline is moving along accordingly, following up with the right people at the right time. And sometimes when you're overworked or overwhelmed, or you're doing this alone, you're managing an overflow of transactions, you miss things. You can miss small details that you may think aren't important, but they actually are. So earlier this week, I received a new contract, and I noticed a few discrepancies. I noticed they didn't have the DRE numbers, which stands for the Department of Real Estate. And they didn't have the DRE numbers for the agents that I work with on the contract. It was those spaces were blank. And then I noticed that the agent that represented the other side was different from who was listed on the contract and all the other documents. So there's two different agents, and they were sharing DRE numbers, which is, one may think is minor, but you don't want to get caught up using the wrong DRE numbers, especially if, God forbid, anything goes wrong with the transaction. But as a TC, it's our job to recognize those errors and bring awareness to them and notify all parties involved to correct said error. Now, this is, a minor mistake. It's not going to hurt the contract or delay anything. It's a simple fix. You could just get an addendum and have the buyers and sellers acknowledge it, and just list all of the names of the agents, the realtors, and their DRE numbers, correcting everything. But I did notice that, and I brought it to everyone's attention. It wasn't that big of a deal, but as TCs, it's our job to catch those minor mistakes, and having the eye to recognize, like, okay, well, this should be filled out. This should be filled out here. It's not our job to force anyone to sign anything. It's not our job to, threaten the file or threaten the deal. That's not our place. It's just, we're just in, it's best for us to just bring it to awareness and say, I noticed this. How would you like to proceed? These are my suggestions, or this is what the broker suggests. And if you're ever confused or stuck in a situation where you don't know how to move on with a certain predicament, or maybe you're the other TC that, helped the agent create all of those disclosures and contracts, and you didn't know that those were required. Just learn from those mistakes and keep it moving, and just remember, like, okay, we always have to make sure that the DRE numbers are listed wherever they are required on all the documents. Make sure that they are listed on all of the required documents for this transaction. And if you're not sure how to pull or find a DRE number, you could go on the brokerage's website. You can just Google the agent and see if there's a website. I wouldn't rely 100% on the website, because sometimes, errors happen. The way I look them up is I go to the DRE, I think it's like DRE/ca.gov, and I can just copy and paste a DRE number in there, and it's going to show me who it belongs to, whether it's for a whole brokerage or it's for that specific agent. And remember, I said that the two different agents were using the same DRE number on the paperwork, which is wrong. I was able to find their brokerage with one of the DRE numbers that they supplied us with, and it led me to the brokerage, which then they had a link on that page. And this is all public information. So if you look up anyone's DRE number, you could see if it's valid, if it's expired, all of that. So I was able to pull the brokerage's DRE page, and then I was able to find a link that brought me to all of their realtors. So I was able to find both of those realtors that were listed on the contract, and I was able to correct that information and move forward with my life, because I just didn't like being stuck in an area correcting someone else's mistakes. But that's a part of the job. All right. Peppermint tea. What's your real name? I think I know who this is, but I don't want to assume. So I have an admin assistant and customer service. I can't talk. I have admin assistance and customer service experience, and I'd like to be a 50/50 real estate assistant and TC. Do you have any thoughts about handling both? Okay, so are you, and you're checking in from Charlotte, North Carolina. How's the weather over there? We have someone from Georgia. They said it was really cold. It's getting cold here in San Francisco, but it's not, I can't imagine it's any colder than it is down south. So are you looking to do this as a business, or are you looking to do this as a 9 to 5, or what is your goal with doing both, besides doing both? Because you definitely can be an assistant and a TC. I think you just have to create what it is you're going to be offering. So let's just say you're starting your own business and you want to be an assistant and a TC. You have to define and come to an agreement with whoever you're going to be working with that what is the job description? What does an assistant mean to that specific agent, or what does an assistant mean to you? Because even defining the role of a TC, what does that mean to you? Because most assistants that I know that work in the business, they are the ones managing calendars. They're the ones going to open houses. They're the ones going to inspections. They're on the field. They're helping with marketing. Hi, Tanya. Yeah, I thought it was you. I just had to double check. Yeah, so you want to define what it is you are willing to offer as an assistant and or TC. Now, this may be beneficial if you want to be an assistant that is remote. Then you would have to define, I bet it's cold. But as an assistant versus a TC, I actually have a vlog on my channel where I talked about this, a TC versus an assistant. And I only touched the surface on that topic. I didn't really get into some of the more smaller details about it, but I think the most important thing you should focus on is defining, what does an assistant mean to you and what does a TC mean to you? If you're willing, are you willing to be out in the field? And are you willing to be out in the field and then have to come back later in the day to finish your TC work? Because if you're an assistant that does a lot of in-face work, then, like I said, handling open houses potentially, whether it's setting up signs or, do you want to work on the weekends, after hours? What is your availability? So I want to prefer to run as a separate business. Now, also, please clarify for me, real estate assistant, do you mean to like the realtor or broker, or an assistant to other transaction coordinators. Um, because you can do that as well. There's a wide range of ways you could be a transaction coordinator. And there's a wide range of services you can offer as a real estate assistant, as I mentioned. I think it's just a matter of defining like what an assistant means to you, because that is also such a broad term, right? Like assisting in what exactly? Like and even if you say everything, like what is everything? Like that could mean picking up their dry cleaning. That could be uh shoot, buying lunch. Like it could mean so many things that don't even relate to real estate. So if you are running this as your business, I would define what services that you are going to do, or what you plan on providing as an assistant. And if you're flexible, just mention that when you're talking to the agent. See what they're looking for, and if it's something that maybe you didn't list on your site, but you're willing to renegotiate, or you're willing to do, then I would definitely um just have like a list of services you do offer. And then once you get on those calls, or you've met someone that is willing to take you on, um you can, like I said, negotiate or just reassess in those moments. And it's okay to negotiate also. Advocate for yourself, negotiate, ask a lot of questions, because job descriptions can also be very deceiving, whether you're doing this because there are a lot of ads on LinkedIn right now that are for transaction coordinators. And here's a good example. A couple months ago, the office manager for one of the companies that I'm contracted with reached out to me and said, "Hey, this team is looking for a transaction coordinator, specifically a listing coordinator. I gave them your information, set up a meeting, and take it from there." So I did, and I took the call. We scheduled a meeting. And they were asking me questions like, "So, what is your personality type?" And they're asking me all these questions as if I was going to work with them in the office. And it sounded like they were interviewing me for some kind of like a assistant role. And I said, I don't really, I mean, I started saying things, and I was just like really caught off guard because they weren't talking about anything related to transaction coordination. And I said, I stopped them and I said, "Are you guys looking for a listing coordinator that could work in-house for you to schedule inspections and appointments and to be more present in-house?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes more sense because what I do," and then I went into, what I do and the services I provide. So one way you could also market yourself that isn't necessarily just a real estate assistant, but you can still call yourself a transaction coordinator or a listing coordinator that helps with some of the behind the scene things that an assistant would do, but you have a little bit more power and control in the situation because you're helping to facilitate each task for every specific transaction. You're not so much doing like, you know, hello, you've reached so and so brokerage. Like they may need an assistant to just answer phones, and that's it. Send faxes. Like who still sends faxes? But that may be the job of someone that is an assistant, and maybe that's not what you want. So that's why I always say to be as specific with what you want and how you want to work in this field, because it's so wide that you may apply or be taken on as an assistant, and it's not what you expected at all. So um let's see, what did you say? I like the idea of doing open houses, updating listings, but work as an independent contractor so that I can choose the services. Okay. Um Yeah. So, I mean, if you're building your business, you create the services that you're going to offer, and that's how you market yourself. And if there's ever a situation where, um, maybe there's a service that you didn't include that maybe now you want to start including it, then you can always update your services and your fees and do it that way. But I would definitely just start with what it is as an assistant you want to offer versus just saying you want to be an assistant, because like I said, it could be very broad and then be brought on as an assistant, contracted as an assistant, and then you're just doing coffee runs all day. Unless that's what you want to do, I'm not knocking anything. I'm just saying being specific will help you to kind of weed out all of the ads or the jobs that aren't going to help you progress. Um, but there's no shame in doing coffee runs or taking phone calls. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that if this is going to be your business, unless you market yourself as like the number one real estate assistant that buys coffee, then do that. Shoot, maybe I'll do that one day. I'm the number one transaction coordinator that buys the best coffee, like does the best coffee runs in town. Like there's so many ways and you can make money in this industry that, maybe it just takes that for you to get your foot in the door. I'm gonna just do coffee runs for this agent. I met them at an open house, and I'm just gonna get educated from them, every week, whatever they need help with for the next 30 days. I'm just gonna absorb as much and then apply it to my life later, and see who I can meet along the way and just keep networking, keep building community, um, and take it from there. I hope you found that helpful. I actually am now motivated to reevaluate my approach with things. I'm just like, you know what, that would be an interesting way of building a network and um, finding other ways to market myself. This is maybe not so much the number one coffee purchaser, but just getting creative with how I sell my business and put myself out there. But um, yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions. I hope you guys are learning, and this is all this is fun for me. I'll be honest. I enjoy this. I appreciate your all of your time. And with that said, I said earlier I'm making an announcement today. So I didn't even realize we are approaching the 1 hour mark, but on this drum roll, on December 5th, Monday, December 5th, I am officially launching the Transaction Care podcast. You heard it here first. But if you are on my TC community newsletter, you already know. You already knew about this, and you actually heard a preview of my one of my episodes that are coming up. But Monday, no, November, Monday, December 5th, 2022, Transaction Care, the podcast. I'm launching a podcast. I'm still going to be doing YouTube, still going to be doing transaction coordination, but I'm also launching a podcast. This podcast will be more of a one-on-one with me, as well as interviews. I've been wanting to talk to other TCs and people in the real estate industry just to provide just more perspective on like their backstories and just focusing on their stories and just sharing those with the world to inspire others to not be so intimidated by real estate and the industry, and just knowing that there are many ways to um, work in real estate, to build businesses in real estate, to earn money in real estate, to invest. And I want to talk to people that are in more unconventional roles. I definitely want to talk to TCs. So if you are watching this, and if you want to be on the podcast, whether you're a new TC, seasoned, in between, like I want to talk to everyone who has a story to tell and is willing and open to sharing that with the public. And but so far I'm enjoying the process of creating another outlet for myself to not just be able to talk, because as you can see I can talk about TCing and real estate, and just helping people with their business is important to me. And demystifying the business of real estate, that's important to me as well, because we're just kind of thrown into this thinking All right, real estate, big fat check, money, houses, wealth, investments, right? But no one ever talks about the steps it takes to get in the door, or how to study for a real estate exam, or failing. What do you do after you fail a real estate exam, or what's it like to buy real estate in another country, right? I want to have all of those conversations, and and creating this podcast for me is a way to do that doesn't put too much pressure on the person I'm interviewing to be in front of a camera, because I know it's not easy for everyone to be in front of the camera. Ever since I was little, when we had camcorders, I enjoyed being in front of the camera. I was always very shy, but considering that fact, there's always this part of me that wanted a radio show and to be on TV. So thank you guys. Yeah, I'm really pumped about this podcast. I'm still in the process of booking guests. So if you know anyone, or if you personally want to be involved in this process as a guest, or there are topics you want me to talk about. Like I said, I'm still going to keep the YouTube channel, but I'm rebranding it to be more of like a TC with Lily, with me, where I'm going to talk about like what I went through that week and how I got through it. Much like the example I used earlier with missing minor details as a transaction coordinator and how you can rectify those situations. That's going to live on the YouTube channel, but the podcast is going to be more of an intimate look on the behind the scenes lives and stories, and just education on ways to get in real estate. Even down to I'm toying with the idea of interviewing my this is an exclusive. He doesn't know about this yet, but I'm toying with the idea of interviewing my 13-year-old nephew and just seeing his perspective about real estate and money. Because I do have a passion for helping people, as well as just financial education, period. The root of all of this that I'm doing is based on just financial education, financial literacy, and opening up. And I'm using real estate as my pathway into sharing that knowledge with the world. And right now, but I don't want to leave out any aspects that I want to touch on areas that typically don't get talked about when it comes to real estate. And I really feel like this podcast is going to be that outlet for me. And in a way, I'm starting over. I'm starting fresh with a whole new concept and idea. I don't want to get too caught up in like what this could possibly do, but I'm just focused on, let's just get through December. Let me just get through launching it and recording and making sure everything is edited accordingly. I'm doing all the editing and scheduling all of that myself as well. So if you know any good podcast editors, please share their information with me as well. But we can get into all those logistics later. I'm going to be dropping day in the life of a transaction coordinator. So the YouTube channel is definitely going to be like a day in the life of a TC with Lily. The rebranding is current. It's happening as we speak. So I'm still going to be giving you guys like a behind the scenes look on what it is to be a TC. And the podcast is going to be more of a like an unconventional view of real estate that isn't just related to the big payout. It's all the like nuanced things that don't get talked about, the people that you don't talk to on a daily basis. Like I've never spoken to an appraiser ever in my life. And I've worked in real estate for almost 20 years. Why haven't I had that conversation? And there's a lot of bias with appraising. Unfortunately, there's a lot of racial bias behind the scenes that goes on. And it's like, why does that keep happening? I want to get into the how one can make real estate a family business, based on your personality. If you're more of an introverted person, I think you'd be good as a TC. If you're more of a, bubbly, big personality, you like socializing, you like networking and being out in the public, then you'd probably be a good realtor. Or maybe you have a knack for design, whether it's digitally or interior design. You could get into staging. Like there's so many different ways that you can enter into real estate just based on your personality. And I want to focus on that. I want to highlight that. I want to tell these people's stories and encourage the audience that does listen and will listen that, there are plenty of opportunities out there. You just have to, start. And I want to be as transparent with all of the information that I provide through my guests or solely from the information that I gather through my own research. And but December 5th, Monday, December 5th, if you haven't already, join my newsletter because you get all the intel before the public. And but now that this is public information, I can't turn back. I can't turn back. This now lives on the internet for the world to see because I'm going to leave this replay up here. But I'm pumped. I'm pumped to just be launching another outlet, another creative outlet for me because I'm also just a creative person naturally. And podcasting and radio, although different, they have a lot of similarities. It's just another way for me to just teach people how to fish, is what I say. And yeah, join my mailing list. Go to transactioncare.com if you haven't already, but if you have, then you don't have to join. I'm also going to be sharing just 5 steps. The 5 steps that I took and still apply anytime I start something new. If you want that, just email me, tc@transactioncare.com. I'll put it in the comments. Just send me an email. I could send you guys, I don't know why it did that, but I could send you guys I'm going to do an episode on this too, but it's like the 5 steps that I take to launch my business just from the ground level. I want to be able to help those that are just starting off launching a TC business. And these are the 5 steps that I take that still help me. I'll just kind of go over them real quick since we're here, but it's just knowing your why. Actually, let me pull it up. I don't think I can share my screen, but basically these 5 steps have kept me just in check and focused because I have a tendency of bouncing all over the place and losing focus easily because one idea leads to the next and I start planning that idea before I finish the first idea. And having this list reminds me like, okay, let's not derail too much. Let's just focus on these 5 things and take it from there. But those 5 steps are... Oh, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. So I'm calling it the TC launch checklist. I will eventually make this public in terms of, when I send it out in my emails. But basically, just knowing your why. Why do you want to start a business? Having a solid why is the equivalent to having a solid foundation for a home. Your budget, know your numbers. Knowing and accepting what and who you can afford now and or later is a key element to scaling your business. Education. What type of education, courses, licensing, and or certifications are required for your city, state, country, even county? This builds confidence. Education is key. Marketing. There are, we discussed this earlier in the live, but there are a number of ways to market your business. Exhaust all options, stick to what works best, adjust and reset as needed. And then finally is your mindset. Success is present in each day we are given. Everything and everyone else is a bonus. Remain a student, believe in you, remember why you are doing this, and keep going. Those are the 5 steps that I apply to my business and my life on a foundational level. When I know I'm going to start something new or if I'm struggling, I can always go back to, my why. Let's go back and remind myself, why am I doing this? Why do I need to do this? Why do I want to do this? Do I still want to do this? Does my why still apply? And just going from there. But if you're watching this and you're interested in getting this checklist, I will gladly email it to you after this. Just email me and just say TC Live, TC launch checklist or something to that effect, and I'll email it to you directly. But like I said, this will eventually go out to my those on my TC community newsletter. And I think it's a really good way to start and just keep it in front of you. So you have a guide of like, all right, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to focus on either for the next week or the next month or the next year. Especially your budget. Knowing your numbers is so important. I could go on and break down each topic in its own hour, but I don't want to keep you guys any longer. If you do have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I do appreciate those that have stuck with me in this live so far. I appreciate I appreciate your time. If you do have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat or just let me know. I'm going to do another live in a couple of weeks, probably after the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm thinking of doing a live vision board, like live, doing a vision board live, because I do believe in vision boards, but vision boards don't work unless you put in the action. But I'm due for a refresher, so I might do that on live. So stay tuned, look out for that. I'll be announcing that on my social media as well as in my newsletters. But turn on your notifications so you know when I drop my next YouTube episode and when the podcast will launch. Like I said, Monday, December 5th, the podcast will be live on wherever podcasts are consumed for you. Just look out for it, Transaction Care, the podcast. But I'm grateful for each of you that are here, that have checked in or checked out, couldn't stay the whole time, or are watching the replay. I know all of you that are here are serious about your business and about your cheddar. So whatever I can do to further guide you in this process, do not hesitate to reach out. I love building community. I love answering these type of questions. Like I said, I've been in the game for almost 20 years. 2024 will be 20 years for me. Next year is my 5th year of doing this as a business on my own. And I know I can't do any of this without my community. It's important to have people that are, in your corner, supporting you, encouraging you. And sometimes that may be a stranger, sometimes that may be your family or me. You never know, but keep doing what you're doing. Take the tips that I, talked about in this live. I'm going to keep the live on my page so you can watch the replay to catch any, to re-listen. It's going to live on the internet forever unless I decide to take it down. But take into consideration everything I told you. Do what works best for you and your life and your time. Big things for all of us in the upcoming year. I highly implore you to start working on that stuff today. It doesn't have to be everything on your list, but just start working, chipping away at all the things you want to accomplish next year. Who said we can't get started on it now? New Year's resolutions apply year round, right? I could say I want to make $100 million on January 1st, and then January 2nd, I may be like, you know what? Maybe I just need 50 million. And think big, dream big. You just never know what will come into your life and when. You just have to put in the work, keep planting those seeds, and be open to the possibilities and the opportunities because they are there. They do exist. And I am a resource for you in this journey. I appreciate each and every one of you, like I said, for the 100th millionth time, because I know we are all busy, and we will continue to be busy and grow and, and take care of your mental health. Always make time for that. Whatever that is to you, do it. I used to hate working out, even though I was an athlete for majority of my life. working out as a full-grown adult is way different. So I just started calling it playing outside. I go play outside and I do things that I enjoy that keep me active, that keep my heart rate going. But, whatever you're struggling with now, can you reframe it and call it something else to make it seem more attractive and something that you're willing to do in order to progress and help your life and your business? And yeah. So, with all of that said, if no one else has any questions, transactioncare.com to join my mailing list, as well as getting all of the exclusive content and releases before the public. And Monday, December 5th, 2022, I will be releasing the Transaction Care podcast. And if you know anyone that wants to be a part of it, or if you are interested in being a part of as a guest, or if you have any ideas or suggestions on topics you'd want me to talk about, send them my way. Just go ahead and email tc@transactioncare.com. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week, holiday weekend, and stay tuned. More lives to come, podcast, and big things. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily, like the flower. This is Transaction Care, the #1 real estate show on the market. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Care for yourself and care for your wealth. Have a good one.